What was your biggest problem with Kamala Harris?
I think it speaks for itself. She's pretty unqualified to be the president of the United States.
Why was she unqualified? She was attorney general twice. She was a senator. What's funny about
I'm from
that?
California, by the way.
Okay, so do you disagree? She wasn't elected twice as attorney general?
Well, she could be elected there, but
Okay.
any Democrat.
Is that a qualification to be a senator or an attorney general or a vice president?
What did she do as a senator that was so profound?
Well, there's a lot of things she's done as a senator that's profound.
What has she done that was so profound?
First of all, gun legislation. There was more bipartisan gun legislation when she was serving than in the last 30 years. Healthcare, I believe that Kamala Harris...
And she put forth that legislation?
Well, she was the vice president of the United States.
No. I said...
Right.
You said as a senator. I said as a senator.
So you're asking me as a senator, what did she accomplish? I would have to look at her voting record.
Okay, never mind. Okay, now go back to vice president.
But I can tell you what she campaigned on. As the vice president, you're not a policymaker. It's your job
So what gun legislation do you want to see?
A lot of what she...
Which was?
Well, first of all, if you're making under $400,000 a year, lowering your tax...
No, go to the guns. We've already talked about it. Go to the guns.
No, I was talking about... Okay, let's talk about guns.
You said
sure.
something about...
Let's talk about guns. We have 140 guns per 100 people in this country. Mm-hmm. We have more guns than almost any other country in the world, and we have more gun violence than any other country in the world. But yet every single time there's a mass shooting, we hear thoughts and prayers. What I want to see is change, and I'm not someone
what
that
change
just...
do you want to see?
I will name you 5 or 6 things right now because I talk about this on my show all the time, and I'm not saying you have to agree with every one of them.
Yeah.
But I actually have some things. First of all, I think it should be... I know driving a car is a privilege, but when you drive a car and try to get your license, they do a health check. They check your eyes. You have to drive a car. There's an instructor there. They have to make sure you know how to drive a car. An 18-year-old could walk into any gun store today and buy a gun with zero training or eyesight or anything. I have a serious problem with that. We need more comprehensive background checks. There was an assault weapons ban in the early 80s. Gun violence was way down. It fizzled out because Republicans allowed it to fizzle out, and then gun violence went back up. I also believe there should be at least a mandatory 2-hour class. In that 2-hour class, if you're going to have a gun, you should learn the basics. How to shoot a gun and how to properly store a gun. That's all. Just a 2-hour class. Because if I'm in a supermarket and there's an active shooter and there's someone in there, a good guy with a gun, I want to know they know how to use the gun. They have a little bit of training. That's number 4. Number 5, red flag laws. I'm not saying that if I make a phone call and say, hey, I don't like that Trump supporter, he threatened my life, and lie, that they should take your guns away. However, it should be a case-by-case basis, and in some states, if a husband threatens a wife, for example, I'm going to kill you tonight. In many states, even if she has a recording of it, that guy can still buy a gun. So I believe we're a country that is obsessed with our guns. I'm not against the Second Amendment. I want people like you. You said you're not a felon. I believe you. I want people like you.
I had to go through a background check.
No, I understand that, but I want people like you to have the right to defend yourself. I'm not anti-gun. What I'm anti is Parkland shooter. 80 times the police were called to his house, and yet he was still able to get his hands on a gun. This 22-year-old who murdered Charlie Kirk.
Did he buy the gun?
Yes. My understanding, he bought the gun legally. 80 times. 80 times. Should that guy have a gun? Of course not. I think guns are way too easy and accessible to people. And if the excuse by Republicans, and by the way, just give me 2 of those 5 or 6 things I mentioned, and I believe it'll help. Do I think it could have saved Charlie Kirk's life? I'm not saying that would. I'm not saying every school shooting would, everyone would be saved by this stuff, but I do think it would help. And when I hear Republicans say thoughts and prayers and more guns make it safer, which the evidence proves it does not, more guns do not make us safer, and the good guy does not always win. We had a black police officer a couple weeks ago that was killed by, I'm going to say it, a Trump-supporting vaccine anti-nut job. He killed an innocent black police officer who served this country. I believe in Minnesota. I might have the state wrong. It happened 2 weeks ago. Donald Trump didn't lower the flag half-mast for him. Donald Trump didn't mention his name. I don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. I want gun violence, and I know you agree with me on this. There's too much gun violence in this country. Even if we disagree on how to fix it, we need to do more as a country. And we're not doing that. I want mentally ill people to not be able to get guns. And it's one of my biggest criticisms of the right. I agree with the right on capital punishment. I agree we need to have secure borders, okay? I don't disagree with everything Republicans stand for. But when you wear an AR-15 pin the day after a school shooting in the House chambers, which George Santos and others did, I find it utterly despicable. It's interesting. They didn't do that after
Well,
Charlie Kirk was
I thought
murdered.
George Santos was just despicable anyway.
Well,
But
I
don't
know
live
George
in,
Santos.
I don't live in New York.
I know George Santos.
Okay.
But I'm giving you an example. There were other
I
Republicans.
didn't live in New York. I wouldn't have voted for him.
Understood. I wouldn't have either. But there were multiple Republicans that wore AR-15 pins, as they walked into D.C. the day after a school shooting. People like Lauren Boebert who give their 5-year-olds AR-15s to hold for a Christmas photo.
Mm-hmm.
I find that disgusting behavior.
Why?
Why? Because I don't think a 5-year-old should be carrying a gun, whether it's loaded or not. I think it's
5-year-olds hunt.
Huh?
5-year-olds hunt.
I don't. You're okay with a 5-year-old holding an AR-15?
Sure, why not? I have no problem with it.
I mean, I'm speechless. You're
Why?
okay with 5-year-olds holding weapons that can kill people?
All weapons kill people. All weapons can kill people. If they were holding a knife, could that kill a person?
Would you want a
If they
5-year-old
were
holding
holding
a knife?
hammer, could that kill a
Do
person?
you think it's safe for a 5-year-old to hold a knife or a hammer?
What does AR stand for, by the way?
So we're going to get into the weeds on what an
No,
assault
I want to know
rifle
your
is.
knowledge of weapons.
Okay, so here's
What does
my
AR stand for?
So assault rifle. So here's
No, it doesn't stand for assault.
So
It
here's
stands for Armalite.
so here's my
So when
opinion
you're
on this.
no. If you're going to talk to me about weapons, I want to know that you know the difference between a magazine and a clip. I want to know that when you say AR-15, you know the AR stands for Armalite. It doesn't stand for assault rifle.
So here's my thing. If we're going to talk about gun violence, I want to know what some of your solutions are. We can get in the weeds on your knowledge on what weapons are, but that's not going to help anybody. Tell me what your solutions are.
How about this? How about you go to some of these Democrat cities where they let people out who have weapons charges on them? They will let them out of jails. They will go and get another weapon.
So you think this is a
and they
Democrat
will,
issue?
I do.
You do?
I do.
So you think more guns make us safer?
I think I have a right, an enumerated right of the Constitution, which is my Second Amendment right. Your Second Amendment
Okay, so what are
right.
your solutions?
You have, just as we're talking about the 1A, you have every right to exercise that right. I have every right to exercise my right. And that right shall not be infringed. Just as nobody should infringe on your speech, it does come with certain things you can incite riots. You can't.
So we shouldn't change anything. Just keep things going the way they are.
Well,
with all the violence we have.
So let's take the most recent gun shooting, which was at Evergreen. What would have prevented that?
I think there's a lot of things that could prevent a lot of incidents from happening.
What would have prevented that?
I'm not familiar with what shooting are you referring to?
It was the same day as Charlie Kirk shooting.
You're talking about the school shooting?
Yes, in Evergreen.
Well, I don't know a lot about the shooter, so I don't want to comment on something.
So what was the most recent one before that?
Minneapolis. The school shooting in Minneapolis, where it was a Catholic school and a deranged individual shot through windows with an AR-15.
How did they get the weapon?
My understanding is that person legally purchased the weapon. That's my understanding. It's also my understanding that there are certain weapons that are designed for one reason and one reason only, not to hunt, but to shoot as many rounds.
Have you ever fired an AR-15?
Yes, I have. To shoot as many shoot as many bullets as possible in a short period of time. Now, if you think you need some of these weapons to defend yourself, I disagree with you. But I haven't heard any solutions from you. That's my issue.
Because your solution is to what? Ban a weapon?
I have 5 or 6 solutions I gave you.
Okay.
I think we should do mandatory training.
So
I haven't heard one solution.
If it's an enumerated right. So do you tell somebody what they can and can't say? You need to teach somebody how to speak in the 1A?
So why don't we have tankers? Why aren't grenades legal?
Well, because these are military weapons. An AR-15 is not a military weapon.
So you don't think assault weapons are military weapons?
Every weapon is a weapon of assault.
Okay, so the weapons that are used by our brave men and women in uniform.
An AR-15 is a semi-automatic weapon. Do you have any idea what the semi-automatic weapon means?
Do
you know that I can fire a handgun just as fast as I can fire an AR-15 rifle?
The biggest mass shootings in this country are not executed with handguns. I was in Las Vegas.
Well, one of the biggest ones was, and that was the Virginia Tech shooting. You remember that?
I do, but
those were all handguns.
I also remember the Las Vegas shooting. I remember the Sandy Hook shooting. I remember the Columbine shooting. I remember the Minneapolis shooting.
Well, Columbine wasn't with an AR-15.
They were assault weapons that were used, were they not?
But you keep saying assault weapons.
Were they
every
not?
weapon?
Okay.
Every weapon is a weapon of assault.
But
if I assault you with a hammer, is it not
okay?
an
But
assault
here's
weapon?
my problem with this conversation. You're entitled to your opinion, obviously. I've given you 5 or 6 solutions.
I'm going to go back to my rights. I know what my rights are.
Okay, but you're not giving me any solutions.
I don't need to come up with a solution for an enumerated right that shall not be infringed.
So you don't think we should do anything?
I have a right to protect myself.
I didn't say you don't.
Okay, you have a right to protect yourself. Now, if some of these kids are getting these weapons. Now, you said that you don't know how this person got this weapon and not how this person.
Well,
got
in
this
some
weapon.
cases I do, but
I
not-
don't know. Okay, so
Yeah.
so if you go to Adam Lanza took the weapons from his mother and then shot himself and then went in and killed the kids in Sandy Hook.
People should be more
Okay, so-
responsible with their
so-
weapons,
so-
and they should put them in areas where people don't have access to them.
Well, okay.
That's part of
But
training,
you
which
can't. But you can't legislate that.
yes, you can.
How are you going to legislate it?
If somebody
His mother was dead. Who are you going to convict?
Okay, well, here's what I would say to that. If you are caught or somebody is caught with a gun that is not registered to them and they get the gun illegally from somebody, and even if there's not a death, but they find out that they got the gun from somebody that was irresponsible, then that person should be prosecuted.
No problem.
Well, okay, but I don't see Republicans pushing for those laws.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a Democrat?
So hey, let me ask you this. So my father dies, and I get his weaponry, and I put it in my house or what have you. And cops come in for whatever reason. Not saying that would ever happen. They come in and they search, and then they find out that my father, who gifted me his weapons, is not registered to me. Should I be convicted over this?
It has to be done in a legal fashion. And there's a
wait,
lot.
wait. So my father has to do what to give me his weapons?
If you give a weapon to somebody and it's done in an illegal fashion where it's not registered to you, if somebody is caught with an illegal gun, I think there should be a mandatory prison sentence. I think if you sell somebody a gun illegally, there should be a mandatory
So what
prison
would be
sentence.
what? So I go back to if my father gives me the weapon, he's my flesh and blood. Okay, my father dies, and he gives me my weapon, or an uncle, or it's just.
I'm not
family member,
necessarily.
And then I'm caught with that.
I'm not necessarily talking about those circumstances. I'm talking about
Okay, but
a
you
lot
have-
of illegal guns that are on the streets.
Okay, I'm all for getting illegal guns off the streets.
Okay, but then Republicans and Democrats, when they talk about these issues, Republicans want to make it easier for get their hands on guns, not harder.
legal guns. Legal.
What are
guns.
they doing to stop people from getting illegal guns? What policies have Republicans put forward to try to help
Why
this situation?
Well, so when you have Democrat, or when you have Democrat attorneys or AGs or whomever who are letting people off out of jails and into the streets for whatever nonviolent crimes,
So-
but they have gun charges in the past,
So
and
you-
then somebody gets involved in a murder. You
So-
hear these stories all the time, and you know you do.
So if that's a case by case basis, I would want to know each case, and I do
And
believe.
what would you want to do with the people who have weapons charges?
I believe if you have a weapons charge, you should never be allowed to have purchase or have a gun for the rest
How
of your
about
life.
keeping them in jail?
It depends on what the charge is. It depends on, it's dependent on what it is. But yes, I do think our laws need to be stronger.
I'm not even cool with somebody who's legally has a weapon, brandishing a weapon.
Do you think a
unless
convicted
they-
felon should have a weapon?
No.
So you voted for a guy that legally shouldn't be allowed to have a weapon? I mean, you're laughing, but it's true.
Well, he doesn't have a weapon, so.
I know that, but
He's
I'm
got
just
bodyguards.
making a point. Anyway, I appreciate conversations like this. I think we need to have more conversations like
I'm
this.
willing to keep going. What else do you want to talk about?
48 minutes is a long time. I didn't think we were, but I enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the conversation. And I think as Americans, we need to have more conversations like this. And I think that's the problem: is people are not willing to have conversations like
So
this.
I just met this gentleman this morning. What's funny is I was watching Pierce Morgan Uncensored late last night, right before I went to bed. And I was like, is this the same guy that was on Pierce Morgan Uncensored? And sure enough,
Did I do a good job?
On Pierce Morgan?
Yeah.
Well,
What would you give me on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the best,
well,
1 being the worst.
I think you did the job that you were supposed to do on that program.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you doing this. I'll shake your hand. Thank you. More Americans need to do this. And there you go, everybody. A good conversation with a guy with a Trump 2028 shirt. Did you think we could ever respect? We did.